After we experienced a really nice uptrend here with Bitcoin, we saw that, especially in the last few days, there was a whale who just sold $24 million worth of Bitcoin over the weekend, which led to a huge amount of money being liquidated and resulted in an extremely large dump. And that was a really hard blow to all the bulls in this market. But the big question now is, are we heading into a larger, overarching correction, or what does the whole situation look like? To answer that, we'll take a look at the important zones for Bitcoin in a moment. The support zones, the on-chain signals, the M2 money supply, the correlation, and my playbook for how I plan to approach all of this in the coming days. And for everyone who didn't know yet, we have a VIP trading group where exclusive trades are posted. You can get inspired by it, copy whatever you want. We also have copy trading here, where you can simply earn passive money on the side by copying our traders. And I mean, just take a look at our trader. 20 wins versus 6 losing trades. He's very profitable. You can see that again down here. Clearly more winning trades than losing trades. You can see that again here. Step by step, the trader wins most of the trades. As I said, this is a professional trader, and if you want, you can easily copy him, and that way your money can steadily grow bit by bit. Of course, this is not investment advice, but if you're interested in copy trading, signals, or whatever, then join our trading VIP group. Everything you need to know is in the description, and it's 100% free. You just need to sign up with Weex once. The whole thing is non-KYC, so that's absolutely no problem, and the results from copy trading speak for themselves. While we're all just eagerly waiting for the final phase of euphoria, there are simply some things we need to keep in mind. And the big question is whether this is really going to be that last sideways phase again. That could very well be the case, because just look at this. Double top formed, same thing here, then this sideways phase. Here as well, basically a double top and a sideways phase. You can see it here too, sideways phase. And that's exactly what's a bit nasty about this market right now. It really could be the next sideways phase again. That's why we need to talk about it. Last weekend we saw that a single whale sold over 24,000 bitcoins. With that, he triggered a real flash crash here and pushed the Bitcoin price all the way down. And because this whale did it on the weekend, on a Sunday, to me it clearly looks like manipulation. Normally, you just don't do that. You only do that if you want to cause panic here, because otherwise it makes no sense at all. The whale only made losses now because he sold everything at once. If he had sold bit by bit on the way up, he would have made tens of thousands of dollars more right away. But to me, this looks like manipulation and like someone deliberately tried to weaken the market a bit here. Because even just looking at the liquidation heat map, it would have made more sense for us to go up. But probably many others thought the same, positioned themselves long, and the whale pushed us even further down. Because all of this happened over the weekend, to me it clearly looks like manipulation. We need to take a look at the OBV indicator. This is an indicator that predicts the trend for us. And on a weekly basis, we're currently more in a downtrend here. Well, you can also see that in the chart. This is where it gets important when we see the reversal here again. But if we also look at the monthly chart, we're still in a bullish impulse here. That's definitely still very important to understand. That means in the short term, things look a bit more bearish here because we've obviously had a correction and so on. But in the long term, we're still in a bullish uptrend. If this zone holds now, everything's fine, then things can continue just like that. Because on a weekly basis, the 20 and 50 EMA are extremely significant. But if we were to fall below here, we'd probably head straight for the 50 EMA, which is currently at 95,000. But we've managed to hold the 20 EMA, which is very, very bullish. Because, I mean, you can see for yourselves, once it breaks, it usually goes significantly lower, often even by 15%. Here, once it broke, bam, the next thing was testing the 50 EMA, because then the 50 becomes the next support zone. That's why it's very important that we stay above it and it remains exciting. It would definitely be good if we could stay above this level in the coming days or weeks and use it as a support zone for the next upward trend. And because this indicator shows me that we found good support here and that we could actually continue upwards, I tend to think that we might be able to revisit this zone again. From here, we'll have to see how things develop. But I can well imagine that we will head towards this $115,000 mark. If we then establish a solid resistance there, it could even move towards new all-time highs, but I definitely see $115,000 in the next few days as realistic. But we need to maintain this structure. We just absolutely must not fall below this $108,000 level. That would be the worst case scenario here. Currently though, I'm staying away from trades because it's a bit too uncertain for me right now. I'd rather wait for some confirmation before making bigger trades here. That's how I handle it, because in the end, patience always pays off. But especially with the altcoins, we're actually still in a good position. We had a really strong uptrend here in Bitcoin dominance. We've broken through it and we're staying below. It's very good that we're still below this long-term trend channel because that signals strength and also suggests that over the next few weeks, we could definitely continue to perform well with the altcoins. And this particular chart is extremely important for the altcoins because it's the others chart in relation to Ethereum. So altcoins outside the top 10 in relation to Ethereum, and we can clearly see that the altcoins are extremely weak compared to Ethereum here. We're also completely in the oversold area on the RSI here. That means especially low caps and smaller altcoins are, on average, still completely oversold, and we're nowhere near a phase where you could say you should sell the altcoins here. Especially with the altcoins, there's still a lot ahead of us. What definitely speaks for the uptrend is that we still have a CME gap in this area between $117,000 and $114,000, which might need to be filled. If we were to fill it again, that would definitely be a bullish signal and could also push Ethereum towards new all-time highs. And especially for Ethereum, new all-time highs would be very interesting because that would kind of pave the way for our price targets for Ethereum of over $10,000. But I actually expect these increases more likely after September, or rather towards the end of September or so, because September is generally the worst month in the stock market, but also in the crypto market. And as things look right now, we're currently dumping, and maybe we'll see an upward trend starting from the FOMC meeting. It could be that it plays out that way this time too, and that it isn't a sell the news event at all, because we're already selling off beforehand. In general though, interest in risky stocks is rising, and that makes our altcoins more interesting, because this here is the Russell 2000. This is an index where 2000 smaller, riskier stocks are included, and we only perform well here when we're in a risk-on environment, when investors are willing to take risks. And in 2021, we were extremely high here. Of course, that's also when the altcoin season was extremely strong. After that, we corrected for years because of this tight monetary policy. But we are seeing an upward trend that is really strong. So we're seeing that money is slowly flowing back into risky assets, and that also benefits our altcoins, because this chart is extremely strongly correlated with our altcoins in general. And especially with altcoins, you don't need 100 of them in your portfolio. A few, but well-selected altcoins are much better, like Ondo, for example. Ondo announced 2 days ago that in 7 days, the US markets will truly become global, and many people don't even understand what that means. But starting from September 3rd, the Ondo Global platform will launch. This platform will make tokenized, publicly traded US securities like stocks, ETFs, and bonds accessible to investors worldwide via the blockchain. As a result, investors will be able to trade 24/7, every day, all year round. And all of this is through Ondo. Ondo has really established itself as a powerhouse in the RWA sector. Overall, Ondo is the absolute market leader in this RWA sector. Just look at this upward trend, an incredibly strong project. And now this platform, which is coming out in the next 5 days. I'm extremely optimistic and have a long-term interest in Ondo. Above all, you have to imagine that in the next few days, you'll be able to trade stocks 24/7 via Ondo. This opens up so much more liquidity for us, you can't even imagine it yet. Just like this other partnership. The US Department of Commerce is working with Chainlink for the Chainlink oracles. They are using these Chainlink oracles for important macroeconomic data from the US government, such as the gross domestic product, the price index, and so on. In the future, everything will go through Chainlink so that it's 100% transparent and viewable on the blockchain. It should also be said here, Chainlink, together with Ondo, is one of the few top projects in this market. And I think this graphic describes the current market situation. In the past few days, we've of course seen a lot of selling. But what we are fundamentally seeing is the fact that institutions are buying while retail investors are selling. Hedge fund managers are also selling, but institutions are still buying heavily. And you can really see this battle in the market. It's truly Wall Street versus the hedge fund managers, and both against retail investors. While retail investors are selling, companies are continuously building up more reserves. In some cases, even governments are buying more Bitcoin. If you look at the whole thing in the long term, it's incredibly positive because retail investors are almost always wrong. And when retail is selling now, while institutions are buying, I already know what kind of market phase we're currently in, and that this phase is by no means an euphoria phase yet. Because especially when institutions are still buying now, it simply shows us the strength and ultimately just indicates that we are still far from reaching the top here. You just have to say though, that retail is probably selling because we've seen a brief downside trend here. And ultimately, that would also suggest that we've just seen the biggest downtrend for now, because institutions wouldn't be buying now for no reason. Very, very interesting what's happening at the moment. And at this point, friends, it's Friday. I'm relying on your support even more because Friday is the day of the week when the fewest people are on YouTube. That's why I'd really appreciate a like and a comment. See you next time. Bye.